Yung SQL is designed in a way na as a programmer, if mag-a-ask tayo ng data from using SQL, di na natin kailangan problema yung technical details or such kung paano natin makuha yung data. Mangyayari kasi behind the scene when we write our SQL statements, yung DBMS or yung database management system, siya nag-analyze then creates data navigation instructions sa na tinatawag ding access path. And in simple terms, yung DBMS, inaalam niya yung best way paano makuha yung data na gusto mo or hindi, and nag-a-adapt din siya kung sa paano yung data is organized dun sa database na meron ka. Then third, SQL also uses free-form structure that makes it very flexible. So third, yun, very explanatory naman na siya. Si SQL, di naman siya really strict sa rules about how to write our SQL statements. And also, ayun din, tulad nung kanina, bago ma-execute sa application mo yung SQL, sinecheck muna ni DBMS yung SQL request mo kung written ba siya in proper syntax. And lastly, pwede natin masulat yung SQL commands natin in different ways. Pwede mo siya i-break into multiple line or in one line, depende sa gusto mo or na siyang nagpapadali nung paggamit ng SQL. Kaya sinabi rin dito na very flexible siya. And finally, one of the benefits derived from using SQL is its ability to operate on sets of data with single line of code. Multiple rows can be retrieved, modified, or removed in one fell swoop by using a single SQL statement. So yung dito naman, SQL can work with lots of data all at once using just one command. Kaya niya mabago habang nagdi-delete or mag-update and mag-create ka ng row sa isang SQL statement lang. Pero sabi din dito sa module na to na nagkakaroon na minsan ng problema yung SQL when handling lots of data while doing step-by-step process on data. Pero since yung pinagkuhaan naman nating module is 2002 pa ata yan, siguro na-fix na rin naman nila siguro yun. Then they added, nakita kasi, they added extra features daw to the SQL, making it even more powerful. So next, data time processing and relational closure. Every operation performed on a relational database acts on a table or set of tables and results in another table. This feature of relational database is called relational closure. So sinasabi lang dito, yung relational database daw, parang malaking collection lang siya ng database, collection ng tables or na parang spreadsheets. Ngayon, pag may gagawin tayo sa database like changing data or searching lang for data, nag-work siya, yung nire-return niya is yung whole table at once. Yun yung tinatawag na relational closure. So dito sa table na pinapakita din yung SQL usage considerations. So sa left is yung mga DBMS or yung database management systems tulad ng Oracle, Microsoft SQL Server, Sybase Adaptive Server Enterprise, and DB2. And yung procedural SQL dialect, PL SQL, Transact SQL, and etc. So, ayun nga, nagkakaroon ng problema sa application, yung kadalasan nagkakaroon ng problema yung mga developer kapag gumagamit sila ng relational database dahil dun sa set at a time processing. Yung kung saan yung nature nun is ma-return yung lahat ng data at once. Pero for example, kailangan lang nila is yung row. Kaya naman nagiging problem is ito, SQL operates on data in sets, while many programming languages process data one record at a time. This difference creates an impedance mismatch where the program expects data one row at a time, but SQL returns data in set. And yung solution naman na ginagamit dito is database management system products. Is nagpo-provide sila ng features called Cursor that accepts the input from SQL request and provides mechanism to fetch individual rows of the result set. So, kaya niya yun. So, ito yung breakdown ng concept ng relational closure. So, ba't kasi nandito to? Database is like a big collection of information. When you want to find something in this collection, you use SQL to ask for it. Your request goes to a special program called yung database management system nga, kung saan kinukuha niya yung request mo, then make sure that it is efficient and then makes it happen. Then after the DBMS works, it returns the information you wanted. This information is organized in a table with rows and columns. And lastly, SQL works with the collection of data sets, which means that when you get information, it's always in the form of a set, even if the set is empty or no data, has just one piece of data or less of data. So dito naman, ito yung two method na pinoprovide ni SQL. Ito yung joins and subqueries. So yung concept lang naman dito is makapag-retrieve ng data from multiple tables based doon sa search criteria matching that match data in the table. So same lang naman yung i-return nila pero yung magkakatalo lang sila sa performance kung saan nakadepende na yun dun sa DBMS. So dito sa joins, where two tables are specified in the from clause of a single select statement. So, and dito naman sa subqueries, a query is embedded within another query. So, parang nested query lang din tong sa subqueries, while yung sa join naman, ni-utilize niya yung paggamit ng end. Okay, next. So, next is embedding SQL in a program. So, most database application require a host programming language to use SQL to communicate with a database. So, ang sinasabi dito is, if gusto natin gumamit ng database, kailangan natin ng computer language or programming language para may pag-communicate sa kanya. And example ng mga programming languages na pwede natin magamit to interact with the database are Java, COBOL, Fortran, C, C++, and marami pang iba. Also, sa pagpili din ng language, nakaka-apekto din siya sa kung paano natin isusulat yung instructions or yung SQL statement doon sa database. For example, yung sa gamit mo COBOL, sa COBOL kasi, sabi dun sa nabasa ko, kahit sa mismong program mo na siya isulat yung query niya, kahit di ka na gumamit ng mga connectors or APIs. Unlike Java na kailangan mo pa i-connect siya, yung JDBC, and yung C din na need pa ng API na ODBC bago ka maka-connect dun sa database. So take note, some application development project use a case tool or code generator to create programs from program specifications. Exercise caution when using the approach. Don't allow the code generator to create SQL for you without first testing it for efficiency. So sinasabi lang dito na pag gumamit tayo ng tool to create program that involves database, kailangan pa din natin mag-iingat lalo na sa paggamit ng mga yun kasi it can slow down your program or yung application. So kailangan pa din natin i-test and optimize yung SQL na generate bago isa lang dun sa final product natin. So next naman is pag-usapan yung SQL middleware and APIs. Ito yung standard interfaces enable application programs to access databases using SQL. So formulas topic, ito naman yung mga ginagamit para makapag-insert tayo ng SQL statements or query sa programming language na gamit natin like Java, C, Visual Basic, and etc. So parang siyang point of interconnection ng two system. kung saan it enables us to access database using SQL. Then parang think of it as a bridge lang na nagko-connect ng dalawang magkaibang piece of software. So madaming iba't ibang standard interfaces or APIs or application programming interfaces na pwede natin gamitin depende sa programming language na din na na gamit mo. Andiyan yung ODBC, JDBC for Java, SQLG, and etc. So yung API, paano nga ba yung gumagana yung mga API? So sila yung nagpo-provide ng set of rules or protocol na which allows us to set up connection from our program to the database. And kasama na rin dito yung pag-send ng SQL statements and yung mga queries. Dahil gumagana sila parang translator kung saan tinutulungan nila yung program natin and yung database na magkaintindihan. And kadalasan nagwo-work yung mga JDBs, mga APIs sa mga drivers. So ito yung popular SQL APIs, yung open database connectivity and Java database connectivity. So yun lang para sa topic ko. Next is i-discuss ni Rick Paulo Camba. Thank you.
Good job.
And so Microsoft database. So a lot of database applications run in Microsoft. So
Audio.
Microsoft provides.
Ang konti.
Hello.
Lalaksan mo ng konti. Oops.
Hello. Hello, rinig ko ba? Ayan, so Microsoft database programming. So hello. Hello.
Sige nga, try mo.
Narinig ko ba?
Ayan, better. Sige, go.
Ayan, so Microsoft database programming. So a lot of database applications run on Microsoft software. Microsoft provides a data access architecture to facilitate database programming in a Microsoft environment. So as a database administrator, we should understand the basic components, but hindi naman natin kailangan maging expert on any of them. Pero for database developers, kailangan maging experts in these technologies. Next. So we have COM, which stands for Component Object Module. And so this COM, it allows developers to create application components using different programming languages. Components can be pieced together to create application systems. Next is we have the OLEDB, which stands for Object Linking and Embedding Database. And so it is a Microsoft strategic low interface to data, more flexible than ODBC because it can access both relational and non-relational data. It also presents an object-oriented interface for generic data access. Next is ADO, which stands for ActiveX Data Objects. And it is built on top of OLEDB. It provides an object model for database programming and simpler to use than OLEDB. Programmer uses ADO methods and properties to call the OLEDB interface. It is a high-level interface that can easily be used from within programming and scripting language. So in other words, yung COM nagpo-provide siya ng basic building blocks for database applications. Yung OLEDB naman, nagpo-provide siya ng instructions for how to use those building blocks. While yung ADO, it provides a simplified way to use the OLEDB. Next is figure 5.2, which is OLEDB in ADO. And so figure 5.2 provides figure 5.2, next slide. It provides a high-level overview of the components of Microsoft's data access architecture. So application programs can access SQL Server by using ADO, which in turn uses OLEDB or by using OLEDB directly. So which is the best method to use? So the best method to use depends on the specific needs of the application. If the application needs to access data from multiple sources, or if it needs to use complex data access features, then using OLEDB directly may be the best option. However, if the application only needs to access SQL Server and the data access requirements are simple, then using ADO is the best option. Next is object orientation and SQL. Next slide. And object orientation and SQL. So many organizations have adopted object-oriented programming standards and languages because of the claimed advantages of the old development paradigm. So the primary advantages of object orientation are faster program development time and reduced maintenance costs, resulting in a better ROI. And so yung object orient, next slide. So object-oriented programming is being embraced by many IT organizations due to its potential to reduce project backlogs and development time. So it reduces backlog of new applications and avoid business people building their own applications and avoid purchasing third-party packages application. So however, OOP and relational databases are not inherently compatible, leading to resistance from object-oriented programmers to use SQL. So this can lead to performance issues for poor data access designs and resistance from object-oriented programmers to use SQL. Next slide. So object-oriented programmers and data resource managers often clash due to different views and programs and components versus normalized and shared data. So object-oriented programming may win the battle, but data-centered thinking will win the war. So data normalization and shared databases reduces redundancy and improve data quality and productivity. Next slide. So next slide. And so one additional word of caution here, many people believe that object or relational databases resolve all of these issues, but an object relational database is not truly object-oriented. So the term object relational means basically that the DBMS support large multimedia data types and gives the user the ability to define their own data types and functions. So all good things but not object orientation. So don't get confused kasi medyo similar yung dalawang class. Next slide is types of SQL. So SQL can be broken down into different categories based on execution type, program requirement, and dynamism. So SQL can be planned, unplanned, embedded in a program or standalone, or dynamic and static. Slide. So next, first is SQL can be planned or unplanned. So planned SQL requests are designed and tested for accuracy and efficiency before they are run in production. Unplanned SQL request naman ay tinatawag rin na ad hoc SQL or created to on the fly by end users and can be difficult to tune because it is constantly written, rewritten, and changed. Next is SQL can either be embedded in a program or issued standalone. So the best type of SQL to use depends on the specific needs of the application. If performance and security are top priorities, then embedded SQL may be the better choice. If flexibility and ease of use are more important, then standalone SQL may be the better choice. Next is SQL can be dynamic or static. Yan. Can be dynamic or static. Yung dynamic SQL is optimized at runtime, while yung static naman is optimized prior to the execution and cannot change without reprogramming. Next slide. Ayan, so we have SQL usage consideration. So ito yung mga situation. If yung columns and predicates of the SQL statement can change during execution, the execution type natin is planned, program requirement is embedded, and dynamism is dynamic. Next naman, if yung SQL formulation does not change, execution type ay plan, program requirement embedded, and dynamism is static. Next situation is highly concurrent, high performance transaction, planned, embedded, and dynamic, pwede rin static. Ad hoc one-off queries naman, unplanned, standalone, and dynamic. Sa mga repeated analytical queries, pwedeng plan, embedded, o kaya standalone, or dynamic, or static. And sa quick one-time fix programs, pwede tayong gumamit ng unplanned, embedded, o kaya standalone, and dynamic, or static. Next slide. And so programmers, every SQL statement exhibits one of these properties first criteria. So yung mga programmers is kailangan ma-differentiate or ma-distinguish nila kung ano yung mga dapat na gamitin. Slide. And SQL coding for performance. So developing database application programs require a good amount of effort to ensure that SQL requests are properly coded for performance. A solid understanding of SQL syntax, database structures, and the programming language is imperative. Next slide. Ayan, so ito yung pag-filter ng mga unwanted data sa ating database management system muna para mas madaling mag-read yung mga program. For example, itong select from customers where country is equal to USA. Yan, so ito nire-return niya all rows from the customers table where the country column is equal to USA. Okay, so yung data is na-filter, so mas mabilis na mag-read siya sa program. Next slide. Next slide. Ayan. So what is transaction? So a logical transaction performs a complete business process typically on behalf of an online user. So the command is the transactional command used to save changes invoked by a transaction. So itong transaction is na-discuss na siya last sem, ating information management. So in simple terms, a transaction in a database is like a bundle of operations that you want to perform together. So these operations can include adding, modifying, or deleting data. And so we have these four elements na-discuss na to: acid, atomicity, consistency, and isolation, and durability. Yung atomicity is pwede natin a transaction is treated as a single indivisible unit of work. Yung consistency naman, transaction ensure that the database goes from one valid state to another. Isolation, which is transactions are designed to run independently of each other. In durability naman, once a transaction is successfully completed, the changes it makes are permanent and will survive any system failures. Next slide. And so transaction should be short. Transaction should only take few seconds. And a typical transaction with generates a page of HTML typically runs between 0.1 ms to 0.5 ms. Next slide. And transaction processing system. So transaction server or transaction processing monitor delivers a scheme to monitor and control the execution of transaction programs. Example of TP systems includes CICS, IMS, Tuxedo, and Microsoft Transaction Server. Slide. And for locking, may I call on Mr. Eric for the discussion.
Thank you, Rick. Good afternoon, ma'am. So let's discuss. Audible po ako?
Yes.
Okay, yes po. So let's discuss all about locking. So locking is necessary to ensure data consistency and integrity. So concurrency issues arise when multiple programs attempt to access data being modified by others. Locks are used by the DBMS to prevent access until modifications are complete and ensuring data integrity. DBMS employs locking mechanisms to enable multiple concurrent users to access and modify data while guaranteeing data integrity. Next is data can be locked at various levels within the database, and the appropriate level is determined by the DBA based on data access patterns and concurrency requirements. Lock granularity levels include column, row, page, or block, table, table space, and database. So, ang pagpili ng tamang lock granularity ay mahalaga sa pag-optimize ng performance at concurrency sa isang database. Dapat natin ito ay i-balance sa pagitan ng pagsusuri ng multiple users at maiwasan ang deadlock. And lastly, DBAs specify lock granularity when creating database objects considering the needs of applications and users. Smaller granularity allows more concurrent access but increases resource consumption for locking. So sa madaling salita, pinapanalitinin nito ang data integrity at maayos na pag-access sa mga resources. Ang tamang paggamit ng mga uri ng locks ay mahalaga upang maiwasan natin ang mga problems sa concurrency tulad nga ng deadlock kung saan ang mga transaction ay nagkakasabay at hindi maaari pang magpatuloy sa kanilang pagganap. Next slide please. So, pag-usapan natin ng mga types of lock. So, there are three primary types of lock. Una, yung shared. Pangalawa, exclusive. And last, yung update locks. So, at a very basic level, a write lock is acquired for insert, update, and delete operations. Meaning, a DBMS will take a write lock when it writes information. While a read lock is taken for select statements, meaning naman ito, it reads information. These locks ensure data integrity during database operations. And then, ang unang type natin ng locks ay yung a shared lock or also known as a read lock. When reading from a database, it is commonly applied to the value, row, or column. The overall notion is that we want the value to stay the same or not change until we finish our transaction. The connection attempting to update the value encounters an issue. So dito, pinapayagan lamang ang mga user na pwede lang nila ma-access ang data ng sabay-sabay pero hindi nila maaring baguhin o burahin ng data dahil ito ay shared lock lamang. Next slide please. So, an exclusive lock, also referred to as a write lock, is used when updating a value, row, or column. Its goal is to prevent other connections trying to read the same data from receiving stale information or the value from before the update. Any connection attempting to read the data during this time will generally face an error. These locks helps maintain data consistency. So nagbibigay daan lamang ito sa isang tao or transaction na magkakaroon ng exclusive na access sa isang resource or data. Meaning, walang ibang user ang maaaring gumawa ng anumang operation sa row na ito habang ito ay nakalock. Ang cons nga lang namang nito, ang cons nito ay maaaring magdulot ng bottleneck o delay sa ibang users na nais mag-access sa parehong data. Next naman is update lock. It's a kind of exclusive lock except it can be placed on the row which already have shared lock on it. As soon as update lock is prepared to update the data, it transforms into exclusive lock. Shared locks reads the data of the row. Karaniwang ginagamit sa mga situation kung saan ang isang user ay nagpaplano na mag-update ng data at nais niyang siguruhin walang ibang user ang mag-update o mag-insert ng data habang ito ay nag-aayos ng mga changes. Ito ay nag-give way sa user na magkaroon ng exclusive access sa pag-update habang hinahayaan pa rin ng ibang user na magbasa o magkuha ng data mula sa resource na iyon. Pero maaaring mag-iba ang implementation nito depende na DBMS na ginagamit. At ang sunod naman, in addition sa tatlong nabanggit ko, an intent lock is used to signify a transaction's purpose to acquire a particular type of lock such as shared or exclusive on a higher level resource such as a table or page. Instead of directly protecting data. Intent locks inform the database system of the intended activity, which aids in handling many transactions that may be concurrently accessing the same resource. For example, let's think a table na ginawa gamit ang row-level locking. Kapag ang isang proseso ay nag-lock ng row, isang intent lock ay kinukuha sa table. Karaniwang ginagamit ang intent locks upang i-secure at hindi maaring kunin ng isang proseso ang mga looks sa isang table o sa mga pages ng table na magkakaroon ng conflict sa pag-lock ng ibang proseso. So next slide please. So pag-usapan natin ang lock timeouts. Most DBMS employ lock timeouts. A predetermined timeout value can be set at the DBMS process or connection level. When a process waits for a lock beyond the specified time, it receives an error message. This approach assumes that it's better for a process to release its locks than to indefinitely block others from running. So, maaari tayo mag-set nga ng lock timeout sa code upang ma-meet natin yung mga needed sa concurrency at para maiwasan ang pending na transactions. Tsaka mapapanatili nito ang data integrity by properly setting the timeout para hindi maging forever lock ang isang resources or data. Next slide please.
Wala siyang forever.
Wala. Okay. Nabasa ko yung sa module po, ma'am eh. Pero, ayun po.
Too bad.
Next.
Forever.
Opo.
Wait
Next po yung...
Okay. I-stop lang kita. Kasi 3:30 na. Yung group ninyo, mayroon pa tayong i-discuss. Or
okay.
pahaba-haba pa to.
Ano ma'am, patapos na rin po.
Okay. Ano gusto niyo tapusin niyo na para next meeting iba na yung naka-assign?
Opo, kung pwede po sana ma'am. Okay.
Sige.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you po ma'am. So, sunod naman yung deadlocks. Deadlocks occurs when two or more transactions are waiting for each other to release resources such as locks on database objects that they require to finish their activities. As a result, none of the transactions can proceed, leaving them stranded or deadlocked. So, para ma-solve o maiwasan ang deadlock, kailangan natin lagyan ng timeout na magpe-permit na ma-release ang lock kapag sumobra na ang oras na inalaan natin para sa lock, or to sort the information to be accessed in a certain order before grabbing locks. Next slide please po. Lock duration. It refers to how long a lock is held and has a direct impact on concurrent access. Longer lock durations may result in more lock timeouts. Each DBMS provides a lock duration parameters which are normally set at the program, transaction, or SQL statement level. Isolation level and acquire release specification are two more important characteristics that influence lock duration. Then, isolation level is a concept that defines the level of transaction visibility and concurrency control. It controls how transactions interact with one another and how they view the database state throughout the execution. So, ang isolation level ay nagtatakda ito ng level of isolation ng mga transaction mula sa isa't isa habang nag-execute sa iisang database. So, next slide please. Narito naman yung mga ilang isolation level. Yung una, yung uncommitted read, committed read, repeatable read, at serializable. Ang una naman is uncommitted read is the lowest isolation level. In this level, one transaction may read not yet committed changes made by other transactions, thereby allowing dirty reads. At this level, transactions are not isolated from each other. So meaning nito, maaring makabasa ng data na nasa ilalim ng ibang transaction kahit na ito ay hindi pa na-commit, and dahil ito yung pinakamababa na level, pwede magdulot ito ng problema sa data integrity. Next naman, yung committed read is the isolation level guarantees that any data read is committed at the moment it is read. Thus, it does not allow dirty read. The transaction holds a read or write lock on the current row and thus prevents other transactions from reading, updating, or deleting it. Next slide, please. So, repeatable read is the most restrictive isolation level.
The transaction holds read locks on all rows it references and write locks on reference rows for update and delete actions. Since other transactions cannot read, update, or delete these rows, consequently, it avoids non-repeatable read. Meaning, nag-isolate sa mga data na binabasa nito mula sa ibang transaction. Ibig sabihin, ang data na binabasa ng transaction ay hindi maaaring magbago habang ito ay nag-execute kahit na may ibang transaction na nag-update ng data. And lastly, yung serializable is the highest isolation level. It ensures that transactions do not interfere with one another. Bale, next slide please po. So, intent locks reveal a transaction intention to acquire particular locks. Some DBMS tools let you choose the time that intent locks are required. When the transaction is requested, they might be acquired right away or as needed during transaction execution. In addition, if processing causes the DBMS to hold too many locks, lock escalation can occur. Next slide please po. So, napag-usapan natin yung mga types of lock at para maiwasan din yung mga concurrency na andito yung programming techniques to minimize locking problems. Una is yung locking is essential for data integrity but it must be considered during application development to avoid problems. Then next is long-held locks can lead to data unavailability due to timeouts and disorganized lock requests can result in deadlocks. Then next is in development techniques can minimize locking issues like standardizing the sequence of updates in all programs, help prevents deadlock, and delaying data modification requests until the end of a transaction reduces lock duration. Then lastly, grouping data modification statements like insert, update, delete, and issuing them near the end of the transactions improves concurrency by reducing lock duration. So we have learned that locking is required to ensure data integrity. Next slide, please. So batch processing. In batch programs, it's crucial to issue periodic database commits or release locks. Failure to do so can lead to reduced availability for concurrent programs and significant disruption if the batch program fails. Batch programs with commits should be designed for restartability. They should keep track of their progress, record the last successful commit, and reposition all cursors to that point upon restart. Then the developers, especially those familiar with the file processing, need to shift their mindset to database-centric thinking. They should be trained in database programming skills, including SQL, set-at-time processing, and database optimization. So to sum it up, this chapter, diniscuss natin ang mga aspect ng transaction processing sa databases na particular na sa online at batch na mga proseso. Mahalaga ang role ng isang database administrator sa pag-unawa at pag-solve sa mga special na pangangailangan ng mga batch database programs. So that's all po. Next slide. So yun po. So here are our group po na nag-present po for today. And yun lang po ma'am. That's all po. Thank you po.
Okay, ayan. So natapos na ba yung natin, yung group na na-cover niyo ba lahat yung 4 to 7?
Bale ma'am, chapter 4 at 5 po. Bale ang next meeting po yata yung
6 and 7.
3-1 po. Apo.
Okay. So nag-assign kayo hinating yung kayo ay 3-4. All right.
Yes
okay.
po ma'am.
So wait. Ito yung ating attendance. Kuhanan niyo na po ng screenshot. Kung kayo ay naandyan na magkakasama, kunin niyo yung screenshot ninyo para sa ating attendance. So ang kinover natin sa topic ay chapter 4 and chapter 5. Ayan, 4 and 5. No? Ito po sa topic, no?
Ma'am, may ask lang po ako. Saan po yung link na yung form po ng attendance?
Hindi ko ba nabigay?
Doon din po ba sa luma? Okay po.
Sa teka ha? Sa GC ninyo, kung nandoon. 3-4, ano? Tama.
3-1 po ako.
3-1, sorry. 3-1. 3-1. Teka, sa taas ba yun? 3-1 sa taas. Form. Sa GC ako nakatingin ha. I-check ko lang kung nandito. Wala. Sige, lagay ko yung link sa GC. Mukhang ano na to, na-update ko na. Hindi ko pa naibigay yung latest. So, ayan. So, pakiabang na lang dun sa ano. Nasa kabilang side ako. Forms. Attendance. So, yung nabago lang dito sa attendance, meron tayong screenshot, no? Screenshot. Yung mga nandito, pakikuha na ng screenshot yung interface ng Teams para nakalagay dyan yung mga pangalan ng ano. Ito yung form. Lagay ko sa... Okay? So, yun lang naman ang nabago. Same format. Kailangan lang natin ng screenshot. No? Tapos i-save nyo as PNG para hindi masyadong mabigat. Yung file. Lagay ko na ba ito sa ano? Okay, wala rin sa 3-4. 3-4. Ayun po. Okay, yun lamang. So, salamat. 3-4 for chapter 4 and 5. Extensive yung ating reporting. Good job. So, next meeting ay yung 5 and 6. 3-1 naman, no? Okay, so doon na tayo mag-end. Please, don't forget to fill up the form. Yes, Jane? May tanong si Jane. Nagtaas ng
Ma'am, pwede po recorded na lang po yung sa amin next
Okay
meeting.
naman. Okay naman. Walang problema.
Sige po, thank you po.
Alright, thank you, Ren. Okay, any other question? Okay. Kung wala nang question, di sige, tayo ay mag-happy weekend na, no? Happy weekend, everyone. Ayan, yung iba pa-uwi na. At nag-face-to-face. Thank you. Thank you for coming today. Ayan, sige. Bye-bye na.
Thank you po, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you po.
ma'am. Thank you po.
Thank you po.
Thank you po.
Enjoy the weekend at mahaba-haba ang weekend. Happy weekend.